Last week, we brought you the first part of the large-scale winter assault on the K2 battalion from 4 directions. Now, we present the second chapter of this battle. The events took place in early February, near Verkhnyokamyansky, in the Bakhmut district. This operation clearly demonstrates that an effective defense is only possible when all elements work in perfect coordination. Everything is here: armored vehicles, MTLBs modified into so-called barn and grill, improvised combat vehicles, eliminated occupiers, FPV drone pilots in action, and mine-clearing teams at work. And, of course, the incredible infantry of the 2nd Mechanized Battalion. But before we dive into this major engagement, we'll first take a look at a summary of last week's strikes carried out by the Magyar Birds teams in Donbass. March 5th, 2025. An FPV drone stalks a Russian soldier like a predator hunting its prey. Then, with precision, it delivers the final strike. A soldier desperately tries to escape inside a shattered container, dodging an incoming strike. In a last-ditch effort, he grabs a wooden plank and hurls it at the drone, a direct hit. But it's not enough. The drone quickly regains control and plays its own card. The outcome is inevitable. March 6th, 2025. A wounded soldier, his leg injured, desperately tries to escape the pursuing drone. But there's nothing he can do. Meanwhile, another soldier finds himself in a chase across open terrain. In a final act of defiance, he fires at the drone, but it's useless. The outcome is always the same. March 6th, 2025, evening hours. The Night Doctor's teams are deployed, taking over the battlefield under the cover of darkness. With their thermal imaging systems, they begin hunting down enemy soldiers, tracking even the slightest movement. No amount of camouflage can hide body heat. No amount of darkness can shield them. One by one, targets are locked, engaged, and eliminated with surgical precision. Armored targets are taken out one by one with precision FPV drone strikes. Enemy vehicles, whether on the move, in cover, or attempting to escape, are intercepted by kamikaze drones under the control of skilled operators. If one hit isn't enough, a second follows. Each explosion is proof of how drone warfare has become a decisive force on the modern battlefield. Traditional armor stands no chance against high-speed, direct-impact drones. One moment of exposure, one open target, and the outcome is inevitable. Here, a Russian soldier is attempting to hide behind a metal basin, seemingly believing that the drone hasn't spotted him. And over here, a bunker with its door carelessly left open. The remaining targets from the operation are systematically eliminated. Some Russian soldiers attempt to flee on foot, while others take shelter in abandoned houses once belonging to civilians who fled the village. Some desperately hide in hastily dug trenches and craters, hoping to evade detection. But there is no escape. One by one, they are tracked, identified, and neutralized. Even those who stay motionless, hoping to blend into the destruction around them, are eventually found. Drones circle overhead, scanning every possible hiding spot. No stragglers, no survivors. Not a single enemy soldier is left behind. Next, it's time to eliminate the remaining enemy vehicles. Among them are pickup trucks, motorcycles, armored vehicles, and bukankas, each one now a vulnerable target. One by one, they are reduced to burning heaps of twisted metal, their usefulness erased from the battlefield. During March 5–6, 2025, Magyar's 414th Special Brigade conducted 1,341 sorties against enemy positions. 408 successful FPV drone strikes were carried out. 265 direct hits were achieved in nighttime operations. Enemy positions were bombed 661 times using wedding drones. Reconnaissance drones identified 54 enemy targets. 56 long-range mine-laying operations were conducted. Overall results: 282 enemy targets were destroyed. 54 armored vehicles and military equipment were eliminated. 93 Russian soldiers were neutralized. Pokrovsk and Kherson operations. 18 enemy drones were detected in Pokrovsk. 14 were shot down. 58 enemy drones were detected in Kherson. 28 were destroyed. A total of 76 FPV drones were identified, with 42 successfully eliminated. Russian forces identified a weak point in the village's defenses and launched a flanking attack. Among the advancing Russian units were MTLB armored vehicles. These vehicles followed a path previously cleared by tanks, attempting to break through Ukrainian defensive lines. The mine barriers proved insufficient, and the first vehicle continued its advance without taking any damage. The second MTLB struck a mine, but was not completely disabled either. Ukrainian forces immediately deployed their anti-tank systems. The vehicles were extraordinarily durable and continued to push forward. Even FPV drones, despite delivering direct hits, failed to completely halt their advance. At that moment, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones detected that the enemy was preparing to deploy troops. A bomber drone, known as BAT, set up an aerial ambush, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As Russian soldiers disembarked from the MTLBs and advanced toward defensive positions, Ukrainian FPV drones and anti-infantry munitions were activated. 2-kilogram shrapnel bombs inflicted heavy casualties among the Russian troops, while others scattered to different positions. The assault was far from over. Another Russian attack unit advanced along the forest line, reaching the K2 battalion's positions. The fighting escalated to direct engagement. Russian soldiers threw grenades and launched anti-tank mines at the trenches, attempting to seize the defensive positions. Ukrainian defenders responded immediately, slowing the enemy's advance. Artillery fire was no longer an option, as both sides were now too close to each other. Amid the intense clashes, the first casualties were identified. Russian troops tried to advance by taking cover among the trees, but Ukrainian snipers and machine gunners halted their movement. The enemy attempted to breach the Yagoza barbed wire using wooden planks. One of the Yagoza's greatest advantages is its near invisibility in heavy winter conditions, making it particularly effective at slowing Russian infantry in snowy terrain. Due to the limited number of Ukrainian drone operators, ground forces in this sector lacked sufficient air support. The bigger threat, however, lay within the village itself, where urban combat posed an even greater challenge. As a result, most drone operators were deployed to those areas. Russian forces attempted to establish defensive positions by utilizing buildings and natural terrain. If they managed to fortify their positions, dislodging them would become significantly more difficult. At this moment, enemy artillery came into play. The Russians showed little regard for their own troops, bombarding their own front lines with artillery fire. In contrast, Ukrainian forces refrained from using artillery at such a dangerous proximity. Russian units were well equipped, Although some referred to them as homeless conscripts, in reality, these were well-trained soldiers. They moved tactically, covering each other to avoid drone strikes and executing a coordinated strategy. Despite their discipline, they remained incredibly stubborn. They did not fully retreat. Instead, they fell back only 20 meters before attempting to launch another assault. In the skies, FPV drones became active. Ukrainian pilots redirected freed-up teams to intensify drone strikes. However, Russian soldiers shifted their focus from attacking to countering FPV drones. Their priority was no longer advancing. It was neutralizing the drones before they could strike. Some were injured, applying tourniquets to each other, desperately trying to stay alive. Chaos had already begun. The unit was now spread across a wide area, and their communication had completely broken down. At this point, the Vampire heavy bomber drone was deployed. FPV drones worked to distract the enemy, providing cover for Vampire. As a large and valuable target, losing it would have been a significant setback. Flying at low altitude, Vampire released its 2-kilogram bombs, shaking enemy positions. Simultaneously, FPV drones executed their own strikes. A direct hit by pilot Uzvar shattered the Russian trench line, scattering enemy troops. As the battle continued, another FPV drone approached enemy positions from the right flank. A wounded Russian soldier, along with another attempting to aid him, was eliminated. The Russian assault group was completely scattered. Out of 5 soldiers, only 1 attempted to escape. However, in doing so, he inadvertently revealed the positions of 2 or 3 more Russian troops. According to the morning reconnaissance reports, the enemy group was originally supposed to consist of 8 soldiers, yet only 5 had reached the position. The remaining 2 or 3 had likely hidden along the route. This allowed Ukrainian forces to eliminate them earlier. One of the Russian soldiers here was wounded following a drone strike. At the same time, another assault group launched an attack from a different position. An 8-man unit attempted to advance toward Ukrainian positions. The group split into 2 smaller units, one consisting of 2 soldiers and the other of 6. The 2 closest Russian soldiers managed to reach the K2 battalion's defensive positions, but they were immediately neutralized. As soon as they entered the line of fire, an FPV drone struck one of them, wounding him. Despite the injury, the soldier attempted to retreat, desperately trying to find cover behind debris and terrain. The drone operator adjusted his angle, tracking the soldier as he moved. The pursuit continued for several moments, with 2 soldiers struggling to evade. Finally, a second drone strike was executed, this time delivering a direct hit. A heavily armored vehicle equipped with additional gear advanced toward K2 Battalion's defensive positions. A Ukrainian reconnaissance drone was tracking its every move, relaying real-time data to the drone operators. Moments later, a kamikaze drone was deployed, striking the vehicle at high speed, triggering an explosion. The vehicle remained operational, but thick smoke began to rise from the impact site. A second drone followed shortly after, delivering another precision strike. The damage intensified, but the vehicle still managed to push forward, albeit sluggishly. It wasn't until a third drone hit its mark that the armored vehicle was finally rendered inoperable. With their transport disabled, 4 Russian soldiers inside the vehicle were forced to evacuate. They quickly abandoned their burning transport and sprinted toward the forest, seeking cover. Through the dense forest, Russian soldiers could be seen taking cover behind the trees. The first drone strike eliminated an unfortunate soldier whose luck had already run out that day. Another soldier, wounded in the leg, struggled to escape, limping desperately through the terrain. Behind him, Ukrainian drones hovered ominously, tracking his every movement. A drone executed another strike, aiming directly at him. As the eliminated soldier fell, another wounded Russian soldier nearby managed to survive the attack and began to flee. Sometimes running, sometimes crawling, he desperately pushed forward, determined to escape. But his pursuers were relentless. A drone closed in and struck just meters away, detonating in a powerful blast. Yet, against all odds, the soldier emerged from the explosion, still alive. Such moments are rare on the battlefield. At that moment, another wounded Russian soldier joined him. The two, both injured, attempted to flee together. But their pursuers weren't done yet. Another drone locked onto them, and the chase resumed. The drone circled above, adjusting for the perfect strike. And then, the moment came. A powerful explosion ripped through the forest. When the smoke cleared, both soldiers had been eliminated. At the end of the day, Ukraine's K2 battalion successfully repelled the large-scale assault, eliminating a total of 30 Russian soldiers and destroying 5 armored vehicles. Despite heavy artillery support and multiple waves of attacks, Russian forces failed to secure any ground in Verkhnyokamyanska. Their MTLBs, improvised combat vehicles, and foreign infantry assaults were systematically countered by a combination of FPV drones, minefields, and precise defensive coordination. Russian troops attempting to retreat were tracked, targeted, and neutralized, ensuring that no enemy presence remained in the area. What was intended as a breakthrough operation instead resulted in heavy Russian losses with no strategic gains. The war continues. For more frontline updates and real-time reports, stay with us.